Good afternoon. It is August 11th, 2023. My name is Stephen Herwire. I'm the owner of Herwire Financial Plans with Direction. After the market roundup, but before the disclosures, we're going to be talking about which door you go through in retirement. Last night, Dow Jones closed at 176.15. Year-to-date up 5.89%. S&P 500 closed at 4,469.05. Year-to-date up 16.4%. NASDAQ 100 closed at 15,129.86. Year-to-date up almost 40%. Gold closed at $1,929.42 per ounce. Year-to-date up 5.83%. The Bitcoin index closed at 29,397.82. Year-to-date, it is up 77.5%. US dollar index closed at 102.65. Year-to-date, it is down about 0.81%. 10-year Treasury closed at 4.11%. Year-to-date up 0.23%. S&P aggregate bond index closed at 198.07. Year-to-date up about 1.5%. So when you go to retire, there's going to be two doors. One of two doors you're going to end up going through. Door number one is where you run out of money before you run out of life. And door number two is you don't run out of money before you run out of life. Problem is, it's not like you reach retirement and say, I'll take door number two. You know, this is not Monty Hall. You're making this choice every day of your working life. And door number one is the default if you don't make certain decisions along the way. What matters most is when you start. At a young age, the difference between paths to doors one and two is not significantly different. So the path to door two is a slight incline. The older you get, the steeper that incline gets. At some point, you're going to have to be taking the stairs. At another point, you're going to be doing some rock climbing. And at a certain point, you're going to be mountain climbing. And if you wait too long, you're going to be scaling a sheer cliff face. So what do you need to do to get to these doors? Well, if you want to get to door number one, just do nothing, enjoy your life, and just wait. You'll find your way there automatically in most cases. Door number two, where you don't run out of money too soon, you save early and you save often, and along the way, make sure you've got the right amount of life insurance and disability insurance because you need to protect your family's income because something could happen that prevents you from earning a living. Okay. The good news is we have decades for retirement. The bad news is we have decades to save for retirement. A lot of times people just don't get around to it. The sooner you get started, the more likely it is that you'll get to retire in a manner and time of your choosing. So let me pose a hypothetical question to you. Suppose there was a bank in town that every time you put $1 in, up to a certain amount, your employer would come behind you and they'd match it, either $1 for dollar or 50 cents on the dollar. Ask yourself, how much would you put in that bank account? Imagine your life being this level or lever, okay? So your retirement needs are in a big weight on the right-hand side, and your life is on the left-hand side. Now, when you're age 22, you're all the way at the far end. And if you start saving, just imagine it's like adding little weights. Okay, now the weights that you add when you're 22 are going to have more of an effect than 22 years later when you're 44, and dramatically more effect than when you're age 60. So the more weights you add early on, even if they're little ones, more likely it is you're going to get an outcome that you're going to be somewhat satisfied with. Okay, time is the most critical component in saving for retirement. Anybody who fails to add sufficient weights to the lever will likely be faced with one of two choices: a shorter retirement, which may mean working longer if you can. Some people get to that age and they just can't work anymore for whatever reason. Or you can reduce your retirement needs. Instead of doing all things you want, doing less of them. Instead of, going sailing into your golden years, you might experience bronze or 10 years. Most people don't want that. So let me give you an apocryphal example of two brothers, early Earl and late Larry. They both graduated from engineering school and they both went to work for the same company. Matter of fact, they were bright students, so they graduated a year early. So Earl, having taken a course or two on money management, he starts putting $2,000 a year, not $2,000 a month, $2,000 a year, from age 21 till he's 65. Now, before I go too much further, this assumes straight line interest accruing, which is not realistic for any stock market investing. This is for illustrative purposes only. So had he put the $2,000 in for age 21 to 65, and he earned 6% a year, at 65, he'd have about $451,000. If he earned 8% a year, he'd have $834,000. Now, I know a lot of you thinking, Steve, where can I get this? It's like, this is not a real investment. This is just to illustrate the power of compounding. So Earl has to sacrifice $90,000. And what does he get in return? A few $100,000 over time. Now, his brother Larry, he decides, I am going to eat, drink, and be merry for a few years. And he does for 10 years. And he decides, Earl's got a smart thing going on. I better start it too. So he starts putting in $2,000 a year, starting at age 31 until he turns 65. Now, he puts 20,000 less in than Earl. If he earns 6% a year, he would walk away with about $236,000, which is a little bit less, a little bit more than half of what Earl got. If he earns 8% a year, he gets about $372,000, which that isn't even half what Earl got. But he saved $20,000. Now, imagine, especially with Earl, well, it'll work with either one, if they had not stuck to the 2,000. What if every time they got a raise, they said, I'm going to put a third to a half of my raise into the savings? So the results would be much more dramatic. But the key component is time. And if you've got a simple IRA or 401k at work, it's less painful than you think. Because if you're thinking, if I put $10 a week into my simple IRA or 401k, then I'll have $10 less to spend each week, it's likely you won't be correct. It's more likely you'll see a reduction in your spending money of about $6 to $8 a week. Depends on your withholding. So in the short term, putting $10 into the retirement account belonging to you will cost you $6 to $8 in spendable money right now. To make it even better, in most of these cases, your employer adds a few dollars on top of that. So, as you might have guessed, the apocryphal bank I talked about earlier, it's your employer. So if you're at a job, you have a simple IRA or 401k where there's matching and you're not adding to it, you're leaving money on the table. It's free money. I always tell my clients, make sure you're getting all the free money because it's better than anything I will show you. I mean, I show you some good stuff, don't get me wrong, but free money just wins hands down every time. It's one of these benefits your employer is willing to contribute to your retirement because a lot of times they want to maximize the chances you retire in a manner and time of your choosing. Now, sometimes people say, Steve, I have no idea what funds to pick. Just pick something because go get the free money. Okay. If you suppose you pick totally wrong, as long as you don't leave it that way for too long, it can be easily fixed without a significant problem. And I can even help it. So give me a call. And that's the big thing. Just get it started as soon as possible. And if it turns out it's too much for your budget, maybe scale it back a little bit, but get in that saving habit right away. Once you graduate it, be it from welding school, engineering school, or law school, you're going to need a different plan for each of these stages. And it's going to be tailored to your individual situation. During your working years, you need to know the answer to the question, am I saving enough? And secondly, is it in the right place? When you get in that last 10 years before retirement, what I call the glide path, you need to make sure all your preparations are ready, and the USS Retirement will be ready to sail on the appointed date. And then when you get into retirement, you want to make sure you don't run out of money before you run out of life. That you want to make sure not only do you go through door number 2, but you stay going through door number 2, because mistakes can cause it to change to door number 1 pretty easily without good guidance. That's what a good plan is for. And then after that, you have legacy. Did what I worked hard for to get where I wanted to go after I'm done with retirement. You can reach me at herwirefinancial.com. I do in-person, Zoom, and phone appointments. I'm licensed and registered across several states and can easily add states if there's a need. If you'd like to schedule an appointment, click on the Schedule an Appointment button. If you want to see more videos like this, hit the YouTube button. In between the LinkedIn and Facebook buttons, it's red. Want to see more, please invite your friends to follow me on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. For those who want to reach me via phone, 518-631-2569. Do not text me there, as it won't get to me. And finally, for a few important disclosures, opinions voiced in this material are for general information only, not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. All performance referenced is historical and is no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested in directly. All data is believed to be from reliable sources. However, I do not represent that it is complete or accurate. None of this is to be construed as tax or legal advice. Consult your advisor prior to taking any actions. Hey, everybody, have a terrific weekend.